ChatGPT is gonna take my job. And at this point, I don't even think it's a matter of if it's gonna happen, it's just when it's gonna happen. And 3 years ago, if you told me that something called Grok was going to take my job after I just spent 4 years grinding out for an engineering degree, I honestly would have laughed in your face. But now it feels like it could be any day before my CEO calls us into a meeting about some new efficiency enhancing initiatives. Now, I'm lucky that I work at a smaller company, so I'm not about to be one of 10,000 people just let go by email overnight, but I do think it's coming eventually. I do a data-driven job with a lot of technical report writing, and honestly, I think an LLM could handle most of it. So I wanted to share some of the things I'm doing to get ready. And this is not going to be just one of the other you need to start a business videos. This is going to be advice that's applicable to a normal person with a regular busy life. So the first thing I'm doing to keep myself AI proof in 2026 is using my 9 to 5 to level up wherever I can. The problem is that too many people treat their 9 to 5 like a money machine. They clock in, they clock out, and they just don't think about it too much otherwise. And I get that feeling, but your 9 to 5 is one of the biggest leverage tools you have because someone else is paying you to learn industry-specific skills on their dime. And lots of companies will also pay for things like certifications, courses, and just other forms of continued education. And a lot of people turn these down because it doesn't mean they're getting an immediate raise. But I think that completely misses the point. You're not doing it for next month's paycheck. You're doing it so that you're harder to replace 2 years from now. And I literally just got back from a certification course that my company fully paid for. And no, it didn't come with any sort of raise, but it is a well-recognized certification in my industry, and I already feel 10 times more stable than I did a few weeks ago. And here's something a lot of people don't think about. A lot of industries are regulated by the government, meaning that companies still need qualified, certified people to sign off on decisions. That's something that AI just can't do. But you can't become that guy at your company unless you've actually put in the work to get there. The next thing I'm doing also involves my 9 to 5, and that's simply getting my hands dirty. And this one is pretty specific to my situation. I'm an engineer in the oil and gas industry, so I have access to field work that most people don't. But the principle still applies to almost everyone. Whatever your job is, find the parts of it that require a human being to physically be there and get good at those parts. Because when you really think about it, AI is creating a reverse industrial revolution. Back in the day, we had machines that just replaced all of this physical labor. Something like making a t-shirt, which may have taken hundreds of hours before, could suddenly be done in a fraction of the time. And that shift pulled people out of this hands-on work and pushed them into office roles where they made money by thinking. But now the same thing is happening, except it's completely flipped. AI is starting to handle the thinking, which means that value is shifting back towards work that actually requires a human to physically be there. And if that's where things are headed, I don't want to be the guy that only knows how to sit behind a desk. I get a lot of opportunities to go work out in the field, and I could say no to that so I could avoid the travel and stay comfortable, but I still choose to go almost every single time. Because I know that every time I go, I'm building a skill set that's going to be a lot harder to replace. Not only do I have my engineering knowledge in the office, but I'm also working towards being able to run field projects. And that combination is worth a lot more than just one or the other. Because let's be honest, if cuts are coming, the office roles are going to be the first ones to go. But the work out in the field still needs to be done one way or another. And I'd rather be the guy that can step into that role than the guy who has to start over from zero because he didn't learn those skills while he still had the income. The third thing I'm doing is working towards a goal of what's called barista fire. Most people think of financial freedom as full independence and never having to work again. And obviously that's the dream for everyone, but most people just don't have the ability to reach full early retirement. Because maybe you're not making six figures, or maybe you started investing later than everyone else. But people forget that there's different levels to financial freedom. And barista fire is the idea that you just need to build up your portfolio enough to where it can cover part of your living expenses. And then all you need is just some sort of job to cover the rest. It could be part-time, it could be lower stress, but whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a career. And in the context of AI, this is super powerful because it pretty much removes all of the pressure. If you get laid off and your portfolio is already covering a chunk of your bills, you're not going to be scrambling to replace a high-paying job overnight. You could go land a job at Lowe's or someplace like Chipotle, and then just let your investments carry the rest so you can actually take your time trying to figure out what the next move will be. And that's really what this is about. It's about building layers of protection, because if you can hit barista fire even partially, losing your job stops becoming a crisis and becomes more of an inconvenience. And that brings me to the fourth and final thing that I'm doing, and that's pretty much figuring out what my pivot will be in the event that I do get laid off. And thankfully, I've been able to build my net worth into the six-figure range, so if I did get laid off, I wouldn't be immediately scrambling, and I could cover my expenses for probably a couple of years at least before I really started to feel some pressure. And that gives me a lot of options. So I've been researching careers that are much harder to replace with AI. Things I could realistically move into within a couple years while living off of my savings. And this is kind of the nuclear option, but if you did have enough saved up to support yourself for a little bit, these are careers where you could get certified, or if you already have a degree, just take some additional coursework and you'd be eligible pretty quickly. And for me personally, I've been looking into healthcare, so things like nursing or becoming a radiation technologist, because these jobs aren't going anywhere, and if anything, they're going to be in more demand over time. And since I already have a bachelor's, I could potentially become a nurse in about 2 years. And honestly, guys, I hate hospitals, but then again, this is the nuclear option. It's not about what I'm passionate about. It's just about having a plan. And this is going to look a little different for everyone. Maybe for you, it's something in the trades like plumbing or electrical or HVAC. But the point is to actually identify something and have it ready in your back pocket in case that day comes. Because there's a massive difference between hoping things work out and knowing what you'll do if they don't. That way, when things go bad, you're not panicking, you're just executing. No one's coming to save you with some perfect business idea, but you don't need that. You need a plan that you can actually execute with the life that you already have. And these are 4 things that almost anyone can start working towards right now. So leave a comment down below on what you're doing to try and make yourself AI proof. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.